what was exciting about this for me is there's an iconic character that I was raised on or around, but there's something completely new about it. First of all, it's an origin story for all of the characters in Scooby-Doo, but because they were 10-minute sequences I watched growing up, this is a movie, and movies require you to take the audience on an emotional journey. So you get a character like Dick Dastardly, who has always been a kind of wafer-thin, moustache-twirling villain, and we dig deeper. Actually, we dig deeper in all the characters and all the relationships. But Dick becomes much more than the kind of wafer-thin villain we've seen before. Working with Tony was a joy because he encouraged me to go nuts and to embarrass myself, and there was no shame in the room. There's just you and a microphone. One of the odd things about films, animated films, is you don't meet the other actors. So, you overlap with them, but you record your lines separately. And these are big ensemble comedy scenes. So you have to trust the director. And in this case, I trust Tony implicitly. I've seen now the sequences put together, and it's his job to keep the tone and to keep all the characters' voices in his head and make sure that they work together as a group. And it's another worldly skill that he's got, apart from which you just laugh. And when you're laughing, your emotions are close to the surface and you feel free to play. And I know it's true of the other actors as well, that we just all felt free and unjudged to try out some terrible ideas, out of which sometimes something great comes. I'm not sure how much I can tell you about Dick without giving away where the story goes. The story has lots of surprises. What I can tell the audience is that it won't be the version of Dick you've seen before, because none of the characters are who you've seen before. You'll recognize who they are, but they become much richer, much fuller, much more truthful, and in some ways much more emotional, even someone like moustache-twirling Dick. It took me a couple of times to read the script before I realized that there are 3 pairs of human and dogs, and there's Shaggy and Scooby, and there's Blue Falcon and Dynamite, and there's me and Muttley. And in many ways, those relationships reflect every shade of humanity out there. The film is about relationships. There's a huge story, and obviously there's a huge mystery, and there's a big emotional payoff, but really, somewhere in there is the way we relate to our families or our friends or someone we work with. I mean, all great stories are really about how we are with each other, and that's true to the power of 10 in this thing. What's great about the film, I think, is that for people like me who grew up on it and watched it since they were little kids, you get to fill in the background of how these characters met and what they mean to each other and how and why. They're taking on a much bigger adventure, obviously it being a movie, than they ever are in small cartoon segments. It's a kind of epic adventure, but it's really an epic emotional adventure. But I think what works about it, well, I've seen it now with people who've seen it for the first time, is there's a whole new generation of fans. They don't need to know anything. They didn't need to have grown up with it. They'll be introduced to the characters from the beginning. They're going to see a film that will take them on a journey, and somewhere in there, there's someone that reminds them of themselves, and some of their friendships, and some of their relationships, and hopefully they'll be at some point scared, and some point happy, and some point inspired, and some point laughing or crying. I mean, it's the point of telling stories to each other in a big dark room, is to give us big emotional experiences, and for other characters to live in the peril that we avoid. Well, people will get from the stories always got from the short version cartoons, they get from this film is a mystery. There was always some kind of mystery. That's at the heart of every Scooby-Doo story. And this being a feature film, it's a much bigger mystery. It goes into bigger places and darker places and deeper places. I think one of the great joys of watching Scooby-Doo is trying to work out who did it where and who's going to be the person that pulls the mask back and what the answer is going to be. It's always a celebration of friendship and laughter and mystery. There's a puzzle at the heart of everything. So hopefully people will engage with that.